Hello, and welcome to this informational presentation provided to you by Together We Are Stronger Legal Services about above guideline rent increases, otherwise known as AGI. The Residential Tenancies Act 2006, RTA, sets rules for rent increases in rental properties. The RTA also requires the minister to set a guideline for rent increases every year, which is the maximum amount that a landlord can increase rent for a current tenant without approval from the Landlord and Tenant Board, LTB. Generally, landlords can only increase rent by the guideline amount, but under certain circumstances, a landlord can apply for an increase above the guideline to recover expenses not taken into account in calculating the guideline. This is called an application for an above the guideline rent increase, AGI. You may be asking yourself, what constitutes an extraordinary increase? An extraordinary increase is when the increase in municipal taxes and charges is greater than the rent increase guideline by 50%. For example, if the guideline for rent increases is 1.5%, an increase in municipal taxes and charges greater than 2.25% would be considered extraordinary. A landlord can apply for an above guideline increase, AGI, order if they have experienced an extraordinary increase in municipal taxes and charges or have incurred operating costs related to security services. But rent increases occur all the time. What number are you meant to use as a baseline when deciding what is an appropriate increase in rent? This is where the concept of the accounting period comes into play. The landlord must select a 12-month period referred to as the base year. The base year must be the most recent 12-month period completed at least 90 days before the date of the first intended rent increase. This will act as the basis of what the current rent is, and expansions of the rent will start at that amount. Another important concept to understand is capital expenditure. Landlords can also apply for AGI for capital expenditures, which are renovations, repairs, replacements, or new additions to the property that have a benefit that extends for at least 5 years. However, certain types of work are not considered capital expenditures. The LTB will consider the size of the complex, the nature of the work, its effect on the property, and the amount of the expenditure when determining if the expenditure is extraordinary or significant. The work must have been completed in the 18-month period before the date of the application, and the landlord must have incurred the costs at that time. If a project takes more than 18 months to complete, the LTB will allow recovery if the project was completed within the prescribed period. However, a landlord who has undertaken several similar projects over an extended period will not be allowed to recover all the projects in one application. Expenditures can come from two sources of work, either by the landlord himself or a public entity. First, we will explore expenditures for work by a municipality, local board, or public utility. The LTB will determine the amount of the capital expenditure by totaling the purchase price, cost of leased asset, and the installation, renovation and construction costs, and the value of the landlord's own labor. They will then subtract any grant or other assistance from a federal, provincial, or municipal government source, which can be insurance, salvage, resale, or trade-in proceeds. In determining the amount of a capital expenditure, the landlord's own labor in carrying out the work may be recognized. The value of this labor is calculated by multiplying the amount of time the landlord spent on the work by a reasonable rate of pay based on their experience and skill in that type of work. If the time spent exceeds what is considered reasonable, the LTB will only allow the reasonable amount of time. The value of the landlord's own labor cannot exceed what a skilled tradesperson would charge. The value of the landlord's own labor does not include any amount related to the management and administration of the capital work. There are some stipulations to the AGI. For instance, the LTB has no power to take a tenant's personal financial circumstances into account when considering an AGI application. The landlord must make all supporting documents and materials available to affected tenants, and must inform tenants of the ways they can access the materials filed with the application. The LTB must issue an order for an above the guideline rent increase if the landlord meets the statutory requirements. Additionally, a landlord can only make claim for security services provided by persons who are not the landlord's employees. Additionally, if the Landlord Tenancy Board (LTB) finds that a landlord has not completed repairs or replacements ordered by the LTB to address serious breaches of health, safety, housing, or maintenance standards, or has not completed items in work orders related to such serious breaches, the LTB must dismiss the application for an above guideline rent increase (AGI) for the affected rental unit. In cases of serious breaches of the landlord's obligation to provide and maintain the rental complex, the LTB can also order that the rent shall not be increased for the affected rental unit until the serious breach is resolved. The LTB will determine whether a serious breach affects one or more rental units included in the AGI, and if so, will decide on the appropriate remedy. How to file an AGI application. The application for an above guideline increase L5 form is available online at the website for the Landlord and Tenant Board in Ontario. The application must be filed with all necessary documents and information, including a schedule of parties identifying all affected tenants. The application must be filed at least 90 days before the intended rent increase, and the landlord must give a copy of the application and the notice of hearing to all affected tenants at least 30 days before the hearing date. If any documents or information are missing, the LTB may refuse to process the application until they are provided. Thank you for listening to this informational presentation by Together We Are Stronger Legal Services. For more information, please visit tribunalsontario.ca. For paralegal services you can trust, please visit avirosen.ca. Here at Together We Are Stronger Legal Services, we are here to support you in navigating the real estate and legal spaces with ease. Thank you for putting your trust in us, and have a great day.